There's the war premium. I get it. I think gold and silver will move up independently of these geopolitical conflicts. Certainly, there's always that added reason to own gold in the face of geopolitical conflict. But if you look throughout the years, very often when a war breaks out, they hit the price of gold. That the commercial banks will short the price to delink the rationale people would have for fleeing currency and moving into commodities. It's been doing that forever and ever and ever. So I don't look at that as being as big of a driver as much as the inflation, the lowered interest rates, the weaker dollar, the tariffs. These are all highly inflationary, and inflation is not going anywhere. In fact, it will be reignited under the Trump administration in many ways. So they may use that as an excuse to cover more shorts, to knock the price down. Ultimately, I don't think it has much bearing at all, to be honest with you. Well, I don't know about the surveillance state, because moving towards a digital world and moving towards, tokenization and digitization of everything inherently is more surveillable, right? I mean, moving towards a cashless society is surveillance in and of itself. I do think that he's surrounding himself with people who will go back to embracing free speech and the First Amendment. I found the cancel culture and the censorship more distressing than anything over the last several years. And certainly it appears as though he will back away from that. And it's concerning to see these other countries, like you mentioned, the UK, Germany, and Australia, imposing these draconian style of rules that, they're almost Black Mirror, they're dystopian. So at least I think in this country, they're saying the right things to move away from that. But here again, it's silently pushing people into a digital world, into a tokenized world, into a world where everything from your everything that we do now is digital. And if we cross that Rubicon, there are two things that I would really want to stay away from. One would be this digital ID that they will probably roll out in the name of election integrity. That's all the biometrics. And if you look at all of the patents Bill Gates has that mesh the digital ID with your health records, your financial records, he's got Visa, all of these. Nomi Prince did an amazing interview, or I guess you could say like an expose on it about a year ago, meshing the patents that Gates has with the digital ID and the future. And I think that we're moving in that direction quietly, and they'll keep it quiet by bringing back the ability to say what you want to say and no more censorship and that kind of stuff, while at the same time moving us towards this tokenized digital surveillance world. So on one hand, it's good. We're going to get our ability to say things again back, hopefully, and won't be censored and kicked off of platforms for having the nerve to say the name of a virus or the president's son's name. I mean, that's how we had to do things. You could never say what kind of virus it was, and you could never, ever say Hunter Biden. I mean, that was the worst thing you could do if you wanted to get your channel taken down or deplatformed. But on the other hand, I still believe that the agenda is to move us towards a digital world, a tokenized world, a world that will be surveilled. And that is where we're going. I mean, you look at the CBDCs, whether or not we get it under this administration, if you take the world's GDP and the countries that comprise all of it, 99% of the countries that comprise the world's GDP have a CBDC in development or already operational. And I think the plan all along was to bring Lael Brainerd in, that she would have been the head of the Federal Reserve had Kamala won. She is a modern monetary theorist. She did develop the CBDC with MIT. She did run point for FedNow, which is Venmo and Zelle on steroids, backed by the Fed, and it didn't work. Well, Trump won, but does that mean that we are not going to move towards a CBDC? Does that mean we are not going to move towards a new system? is there not going to be a reset that will then reset the entire system and then move towards something more digital? I don't know. I've always felt that ultimately was where we were going, that they would do all they could. And that's why I coined the phrase too stupid to be stupid. So many of the things that we've seen over the last few years literally are too stupid to be stupid. I was doing an interview with Tom Luongo yesterday, and he was saying basically this is a British and a Davos has-been psyop to, literally destabilize the United States, bring it down, bankrupt it, and destroy it from within. And he has his reasons for saying that. I won't go into that long, lengthy diatribe, but simply to say he believed that, yeah, it is too stupid to be stupid, and this was the plan all along, and was ultimately to get rid of Jerome Powell and install Lael Brainerd, this modern monetary theorist, and it didn't work out. But I do think that there's something to be said for that. The worst thing that I think we could do would be to take this digital ID. Let's hope we move away from it. But if not, if everyone starts taking the digital ID under the name of, for example, election integrity, we have to be able to, make sure it's you, because there was a big deal about all these people that were allowed to vote without providing any ID. In fact, Gavin Newsom made it a law illegal to ask people for ID. How horrible, to ask people for ID to vote, right? You have to show you're 17 to go to an R-rated movie, but God forbid we ask you to show it's really you to vote. Well, no, that's discrimination. Well, and that really pissed a lot of people off. And so maybe that's kind of the backdoor plan. Yeah, take this and our elections will be fair forever. Well, I mean, they were fair forever before 2016, where there were questions whether or not it was fair or not, or 2020 rather. Probably 2016 too. There were people saying it wasn't fair. I mean, look, that's what we're going to probably see is some sort of a digital ID, and that is moving towards that type of place where you're surveilled, period. And I don't think there's any way around that, to be honest with you. But at least we'll get our ability to speak freely back under this current administration. At least that's the way it appears. So that's what Alistair said all along, that they got nearly 40,000 metric tons, and they would, if need be, find a way to siphon that from the public. However they do it, by incentive or by force, I don't know. That's debatable. They've been mining gold uneconomically for years and years and years using our trade imbalance, and I don't discount it at all. How many people understand that they're the second largest producer of silver in the world? You never hear that. David Morgan will tell you they told him, whoever they are, the Chinese officials in the mining sector, that they're number one in the world. Yeah, I do believe it. And maybe, if you wanted to play, and this is putting on my tinfoil hat, maybe they didn't find it. Maybe they said they did, and they're going to look like they're mining this area because they have far more gold than they've ever led on to believe. Oh, look, now we just added all this gold to our coffers. We just found this big stash. They haven't been updating their numbers for a very long time, and they have way more than they tell us. They're not the sixth. They're probably way, way, way ahead of us in terms of, and it's funny because, we take them at face value and we take the US at face value, but the US is every bit as opaque as China is. In fact, maybe even more so. Why would our holdings not be audited since 53? Why? And turned down repetitively. And why did it take so many years for Germany's gold to be returned to them? It should have just been an easy, put it on a couple of airplanes and off you go. The whole thing is very opaque, and it doesn't serve anyone in terms of a system moving perhaps towards something tied to a commodity-backed new system. You look at the BRICS currency that they have proposed, the unit, 40% gold backed. Again, you look at Judy Shelton talking about attaching gold to a system. If you don't, who's going to want to buy our treasuries of any duration? You look at Scott Bessent, it's his largest holding. We're seeing rumblings of gold throughout the system. You have Kristalina Georgieva, the head of the IMF, saying any CBDC not pegged to something would be fiat. You have gold reclassified, the only other tier one asset in the world. So to me, gold is going to have a place in all of this, tying it to a system. that's the marriage between digital CBDC and gold, using that blockchain to show the veracity and the immutability. I've always felt that was the path. And if that is the path, then you don't want to tell anyone how much you're accumulating. Doesn't do you any good. It just crowds you out of your trade. You do it very stealth. And they're using the suppression of the Western paper market to do this, to siphon off everything they can. It doesn't do them any good to be forthright about it. So yeah, I think indeed the Chinese have way more than they let on to, and they are telling their citizens to do it. And if they ever did get into a position where they needed that gold to back a new system, whether it be by force or incentive, they would take it. And you know, highly probable. So I don't discount any of that. And whether or not they found it, and they really did find it, and they will mine it, you can bet your bottom dollar they will. Or they didn't find it, and they're telling us they found it as a means to immediately say that their stockpile went from here to here. These are all, I guess, possibilities. But yeah, China and gold should be synonymous by now. And if not, for most people, you're not paying close enough attention.